had a mentor who says it all the time. She's like, how you show up for one thing is how you show up for all things. And so if you have a money story that's prevalent in your personal life, it's going to carry over to your business life. Right? The early 90s, it was very much you didn't want to talk about your personal life in business, or we were very competitive to getting space with men, where now it's like, no, this is a completely different journey for us. And I remember telling my husband, I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom and work part-time now that my son is 14, and people thought I was crazy. But at that time I was like, man, being able to connect with my teenage child and work from home was like awesome. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we need to have more conversations about, I was still able to do all the things I wanted to do and reach the potential that I wanted, still being a mom. Like, one of the things right now I'm very proud to say is I am a grandmother to 2 young boys, and I take off days of the week to be with them. You know, a Moxie is being committed to the things that you say you want in your life, right? And not listening to that teeny little voice that says that it can't be.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Hello Moxie. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Monica Roca-Quesada, and she is the founder of Agile Planners. And I've been so excited to have her on the show today and share her passion for helping small business owners be successful, and just hear a little bit about her Moxie and how she started her company and what's lighting her up. So Monica, welcome to the show today. How are you? Tell our listeners a little bit about you and what's lighting you up.
Oh, good morning, and thank you so much for having me. So let's say a little bit about myself. Well, I'm Monica Roca-Quesada, and I am the founder of Agile Planners and FinOps. I don't often talk about that one too much. Um, and what are we? We are an accounting technology firm. And the reason I say we're an accounting technology firm is because right now, I think back in like 2014 when we started, there was like 6 or 7 apps that you were implementing in your business. I think that number is now up to between 12 and 14. And maximizing your time, maximizing your tech, and making sure that you have implemented that on the finance side is just something we're so passionate about. Helping business owners change the trajectory of their business is what we love doing.
I love that. Helping them change the trajectory of their business. What have been some of your most proudest success stories? What's a success story that you're most proud of?
I think there's always a turning point with working with a business owner. By the time they reach us, they're frustrated, they've had bad experiences. We hear a lot of, I reach out to my team and they don't answer, no one responds, my books are behind, I can't make decisions, right? There's always a turning point when they work with us, where it's not like that anymore, where there's like this moment of clarity. And I think that that's the one I hunt for or the one I love the most, right? Recently, we worked with someone who has a thriving business and was just overwhelmed, by what was going on and trying to make sense of it. And there's this feeling of, I should know this. I should know what's happening, or I should be able to interpret what's happening in my business. And there's stigma with money and finance, and there's a lot of I shoulds, and or feeling like I didn't. And that moment when they get that clarity and no longer feel that anymore is the one that I feel that I chase, right? Like, bring me the people that are like, I don't understand what's happening in my business. And I'm like, perfect. Let's work on it together. Let's talk about it. Let's make it make sense, right? Because the numbers are telling you a story, and we see this with content creators all the time, where it's like, what's the story that's happening, right? Like, how do you explain to someone how you work or what you do, right? But the numbers are doing the same thing. The numbers are telling you where you're hitting it out of the park, where you're not, right? And it's about organizing that data in a way that makes sense to you as the business owner.
Beautiful. Well, I loved what you shared when you were talking about how um, the business owners really have kind of reached this, I would say, moment of humility where they're like, I need help. I realize I can't do this all and figure this all out on my own, and I need someone to help me do this. And kind of like an acceptance of that, and that's okay. I think that's something as a business owner that is like a it's like almost like a rite of passage you have to go through, like, right, like when you first start your business, you've got to wear all the hats and do everything in order for the business to start working. But for it to really grow and scale, you have to get really comfortable with saying, I don't know how to do this, and I'm going to have to figure out someone else who can help me. And that's okay. It's not doesn't mean that I'm deficient or my business is deficient in any way. It just means that it takes a village to grow this. And if I can stay focused on what my vision is for this company and where it is that I really excel and just be laser focused on that, that it's okay to let go of some of these other things. And it's okay to say, I don't know how to do this.
Right.
Which
Well,
is
I
so
mean, it's
hard.
interesting because you have other parts of the business where there'll be full acceptance, like marketing, right? Like
Mhm.
I marketing, I will hire someone, I will implement a plan,
Mhm.
I will, figure out someone who can help me with it. But somehow in the finance side of the business, it's like I should know. There's this feeling of
Yeah.
I should, like I should have known more or and I think that as a whole, right? I don't know that, like, I think every business is individual, and sure, there's going to be patterns and trends and things of that nature, but the way that you do something in your business may be significantly different than someone who has the same type of business somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
Particularly in the world that we live in now with tools and tech, right?
Mm.
Like how
Yeah.
we sell, how we accept payments, right? Figuring out what that looks like. And I don't think that we should hold ourselves accountable to have to know how every integration in our business
Mm.
works, right? Like
Yeah.
how does Stripe work versus Square? If I'm using QuickBooks payments, right? Like what does that look like? They all work different. They
Mm.
all have different attributes to them. Why do you need to know that if
Mm.
that's not what your business is in, right? And so I think working with the team that knows how to do that and the oddballs like us that really enjoy that, right? Because when I get to work with new tech we haven't seen, I'm almost like, yes, let me figure out the back end of how this works, right? Because it
Mm.
allows me to help. And like I think that's what it comes down to, right? It's like, why did you start this business?
Mm.
What was the purpose of it? What was the problem that you were trying to solve, and what made it so big that you were willing to risk everything, right? Because there's
Mm.
an inherent risk at being a business owner.
Yes.
Typically, you're walking away from, a corporate job of some sort. You're either investing your own money or leveraging personal finance to be able to do it, right? And there was a calling, there was a passion that you felt to want to do that, right? Like, how do we get the business owner back to that,
Mm.
to solving that problem, and not worried about, do I have enough money to run payroll, right? Like, I mean, do I have enough money to keep this afloat? And I think the other thing we don't talk about is how lonely it is when
Yes.
you're at the top of that, right? Like,
Mhm.
you're not necessarily going to go back to your team to say you're worried about payroll or,
Right.
and there's a lot of it, and that's not what they signed up for. So I think connecting back to their why is really important, and
Mm.
then finding the right team to help you implement what that dream and passion was.
That's so beautiful. I love that, starting with the vision and really helping the people that the owners that you're working with tap into that vision that they had so that they can help achieve it. What have you so okay, so my next question for you is, what are some of the biggest fears or limiting beliefs that you've seen that have held your clients back from creating this scalable legacy or creating like what are some of the biggest things that you hear over and over again from them that you kind of have to work through with them?
So it's always their money story, right?
Mm.
Because your money story, like, I had a mentor who says it all the time. She's like, how you show up for one thing is how you show up for all things. And so if you have a money story, that's prevalent in your personal life, it's going to carry over to your business life,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
So if you have, a scarcity mindset
Mhm.
of, that it's all going to be taken away from you at some point, then you're going to kind of be weary to invest in growing that business, right? Because one day it could all be gone.
Yeah.
Um, if you are the type that is like spend now and I'll figure it out later, and you carry that into your business, and you'll see that as well, right? So I think uncovering the money story is
Mhm.
really important, and I think there's another part of this where I believe all business owners are risk takers, right? Some of us are not uh, as tolerant, as risk tolerant as others, but
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we're all risk takers, right? So understanding where that threshold is
Mm.
also important, right? Like, what are you willing to do? Because you already put your foot out there. You hung up your shingle, and you're doing
Mm.
the thing, right? So how far are you willing to go? What's that tolerance, right? Like, and what's your safety number? Because I think
Mm.
we speak to a lot of business owners that they want to have a certain number in the bank, right?
Yeah.
And then that's their safety number. But if they don't understand that that money is actually committed to something else, like repayment of debt, right, or things like that, then it's a false sense of security. So
Yeah.
really understanding what that means, right? Like that's what we're about. We're about making people feel comfortable and pushing the limits, but the limits of what they're also comfortable with, right?
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes I think, like with anything, we get comfortable in life. You get comfortable at a certain weight, you get comfortable in a certain role, right? Like we get comfortable in business too. But do we tie that back to why we did it? A lot of times we have conversations with business owners that are like, it started as a side hustle, because I wanted to put my kid through college,
Yeah.
or I wanted to take a trip. I wanted extra money for my family. What does that look like? And it became this business that has so much potential. And at the same time, it's scary. I mean, I think we can say that it can be scary,
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
risk it all. But having the right team will make the difference.
And I love that you shared too. It's about getting understanding what your threshold is, because that's going to be different for every business owner. And that's okay. Like someone might be much more willing to take greater risks than another business owner. And it's just like understanding where you feel the most comfortable while still stretching yourself in some degree, right? Like so that that you're working within the boundaries that you're comfortable with that align with your values. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think sometimes, and it's interesting because I think some of it comes with age and maybe experience, right?
Mhm.
You can see a potential that maybe the business owner just isn't there yet.
Mhm.
And not everybody wants to grow and scale and have an empire, right?
Yeah,
Some people want a lifestyle business, and that's okay. you know
exactly. Yeah.
that's
Very cool. Oh, beautiful. So, okay, I would love to know what inspired you to start Agile Planners. What's your story as a founder? What was it that led you down this journey?
it's actually a really funny story.
Mm.
I out automated and efficiencyed myself out of two job roles.
Wow.
Um, for a lot of time in the beginning of my career, I was brought in as a specialist to like convert from one accounting system to another, right? To
Mhm.
look at processes and workflows and see how they worked. So I had a skill set. I had experience with things like Oracle and SAP and all these
Okay.
different platforms, really like, and all different segments of it, right? And I would work with, let's say, a small business, and we would implement, moving them to a different software and what apps we were going to work with or whatever. And then all of a sudden, there wasn't enough for me to do unless I was, yeah, unless I was in like unless I was in a traditional like controller type role,
Mm.
right? Then there wasn't enough for me to do. And sometimes these companies got bought out, they were under
Mm.
new management, things like that. So it happened to me twice in the span of 3 years. And
Wow.
I said, you know what? There has to be a market for people that want to just do this, right? I will work with businesses for, let's say, 3 to 6 months. I
Mhm.
will, work on their businesses. We will kind of come in, revamp, and get out.
Mm.
And that's really how Agile was born, right? I think, and this is the thing, like, what was my passion? My passion was to help businesses get away from the mundane, the repetitive things that we could automate. Yet at the same time, I didn't realize the challenge that I was taking on is that no one knew that someone like us existed,
Yeah.
right? And so they didn't know, like, it wasn't something people were searching for, right? So I'm very proud to say that we are about at year 13 now of being in
Woohoo!
business. Thank
Congratulations.
you, thank you.
Amazing.
It's taken different evolutions, and I think that in honesty, that's something that we don't talk about either, right? Like, you may have a business that was born to serve one need and pivots and does
Yeah.
something else, right? Or adds different verticals. So right now, we have like a bookkeeping arm, we have our advisory, we do executive dashboards because we really are passionate about data, right? And getting
Mm.
the data that you need. There's different things. I never envisioned it being what it is now,
Mm.
but the passion that I had was to help businesses in that level, right? And so typically, we talk about this a lot, like, to get to your first 100,000 is a lot, right? And then to get to the 300,000 is like, oh my god, right? But then from there you get to the half a million, fine, and then getting to the 5 million is like a big deal. But if you have someone that specializes in helping you at every stage of that growth, it is a game changer, to
Mm.
have the right, and you really do. It is a team, right? Like, so you do need a bookkeeper, right? And you do need a tax professional, possibly even a tax strategist, depending on what's going on, right?
Mm.
Um, but who's really holding you to the vision of what you have? Like, you're forward facing. Who's like mapping out that plan of what your 1 year, 5 year, 3 year, what does your exit strategy look like? Like,
Yeah.
who are you working with for that, right? And it's interesting because for us, it's more on the finance side, right? Like, what's your plan? Where do you want to go? And how does that work? Like, because people are like, well, how do you integrate with tax? And I'm like, well, if you're looking to sell your business 5 years from now, then we want it to be as profitable as possible so that we can have the biggest exit, right? If you're going to be in this business for the next 20 years, then maybe that's not ideally what we want, right? And we need to
Yeah.
look at what that long term plan is. But
Mm.
who are you doing that with?
Yeah.
And a lot of times there's this misconception that, not I mean, there are people that will cover all gambits
Mhm.
of each phase of this. I would say that people need to be really, really cued into what the scope is of who they're working with. Like, what is their goal? Are they engaged for just compliance and tax planning? Are they engaged for tax strategy? Are they engaged for advisory and looking forward, right? Because I think if people knew that there were people like us that specialize in that to help you get there, it would change the trajectory of the business that they're in.
Yeah. And that's so important to like if you're as you're considering partners to really know that you're asking the right questions. So I love that call out. Like, what do you think are some of the questions that a business owner should be asking of, a financial partner like yourselves to help them get to find the right partner that's going to help them the way that they need to?
So it's I don't know that it's questions. It's about having an open dialogue about what the
Mm.
expectation is, right? What the
Okay.
outcome is, right? A lot of times, we'll engage with a company, let's say for bookkeeping, right? And they think that we're gonna work on pricing, we're gonna work on, like figuring out profitability. That's not what they engaged with us for, right? So a lot of times that'll be discovered in the conversation of like, oh, but I want to talk to you about
Mm.
X. And I'm like, that's great, but that's
Yeah.
a different product that we have,
Mhm.
right? I think what stumps a lot of people is because we get it a lot on the CPA side. They're like, I thought my CPA was doing that, and I'm like, but did you ask? Like, did
Mm.
you have a conversation about where you wanted to go? Did you ask if they could help you, or did you assume that that was covered, right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's, and so really getting into the scope. For us, it's really about educating,
Mm.
and having that conversation. Like a lot of times, even from the bookkeeping perspective, we can see something really interesting that can grow, right? And we're like, hey, let's have a call about this. But they may not see it the same way that we do, right? So there has to be dialogue. It's not necessarily like you want to make sure that a lot of times what we hear feedback is like, well, I never met with them. I just sent them paperwork and they gave me
Mm.
a tax return. I'm like, but where did that fall, right? Like, did it fall on them or on you?
Yes, it's like how you're communicating and what you're communicating that makes all the difference. That's so
Absolutely.
important. So I'd love to know, you've been in business for 13 years now, Monica. Like, what have you seen shift? What have been some of the you mentioned earlier about how you've had to kind of like you've had the same core vision from the beginning of helping small businesses strategically, but what have you noticed shift in terms of the how you do it?
The biggest shift will be the tech. The
Mm.
tech that we have now is amazing. Even in watching the evolution of like what QuickBooks does, things like that. There's people in the accounting field some will be bothered and annoyed by change, right? Whereas for me, and I'm like, let's test it. Let's see what we can maximize here, right? So tech has been huge,
Mm.
but not bigger than AI. AI is definitely a game changer here.
Mm.
The thing is, it's all about how you use it and how you implement it, right? You see all these. I want to say you see on social media all the time, and it's about the prompting, it's about the questions, and it's the same. You can have AI integrated into your accounting and tech, but if you're not asking the right questions or looking in the right place, then you may not be getting the answers that you need.
Mm.
So it's about integrating, but with curiosity also, right? And testing what can and can't be done. In my field, there's a lot of uh, fear that AI is going to take our jobs, and I, I can't say that I don't think that that could happen at some point. I don't know that it's happening right now, right? I
Yeah.
don't know that um, it's going to replicate, like someone, for instance, I've worked with I don't know how many different industries, and I don't know like what I could implement in, let's say, an architectural firm, an engineering, maybe something that we used in e-commerce, right? Like I don't know without asking the right questions and asking it to pull from that data set, I don't know that you would get the same outcome, right?
Yeah.
Eventually, eventually you might, but right now I think the name of the game is really like how do I get it to help me understand what's happening more? Um,
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Where you're in the driver's seat. You're still running the show and you're just basically having it be the supporting arm to get you the information that you need. There's a lot of nuance in what you do, Monica, that comes from your all of the decades of experience that you've had doing this, that that is something that AI doesn't understand the nuances of like different, you know, one-to-one human relationships and that kind of like gut feeling that we as humans have that comes
right,
from our bodies. Like we have this lived wisdom that's in our bodies. This it may sound really hooey, but it's totally real to me that there's this lived wisdom that's in our cells that is something that AI never will have. And so like as humans, as we look forward, I truly believe it's like how can we tap more into that wisdom as much as we possibly can when we're working with our clients or in our businesses in whatever way possible. It's that's going to separate us and help us basically keep our jobs or find the right jobs for us is really how well can we tap into that wisdom that we have and help others
right.
do it.
I also think that there's this part of the experience that we have, like possibly the generation that I'm in.
Mm.
We're not going to lean in that quick. We'll lean in, but we're going to be cautious about it. Whereas the younger generation will just go gung ho and not. They
Mm.
don't. They may not see what they're missing yet, right? Like
Yeah.
we have a software architect on staff, and one of the things, like he reviews code and things all the time. And one of his things, like they don't, they're asking AI to generate code, but they don't see the errors because they didn't manually do it. They don't, right? And
Mm,
so we're getting there. You know what I mean? Like I'm excited, because one of the things that we've fought all the time is like, oh, well, bookkeeping is data entry. Well, you could look at it that way, right? But if you don't know the difference between a liability and an asset, then it's going to be a whole different outcome for you, right? So it's the same, right? It's like,
mm,
how do I take I've never like I feel like bookkeeping is your first line of defense, right? Of like really understanding what's happening in the business. But stopping and analyzing that and really looking at it from different perspectives is what gives you the information you need, right? And even with that, like if you at this point, like because I would hate for these recordings to come out later and be like she was against AI. No, no, not at all. Um, it's at this point right now, there's still a lot of prompting to get it to like look
yeah,
at it from a different perspective. I think that will change, and I'm honestly excited about it. Honestly,
yeah.
like I think it helps me process information faster. I can get to the outcome that I want a lot faster than if I had to do it all myself. That's the value for me right now.
Yeah, I would completely agree with you. I think that for me personally, my business too, AI has been an absolute game changer. And it's changed what you just said, like how efficiently that we can get work done. But I think there's an ethics involved in it. Like you have to be very intentional as a business owner on how you're going to use it and what deciding upfront, like this is what I'm comfortable using this for, and these are the areas that I'm not comfortable or that I still need to like kind of run the show on. And maybe over time that may change, but I think there's so much ethical consideration when it comes to using AI that you have to be intentional about as a business owner. Otherwise, next thing you know, you're going to be creating Sora videos that are like deep fakes of, like so, like there's certain
Yeah,
it's like any good technology can be used for so much good, but then it can also be used for so much that's not great. And so we as moral beings have to make those decisions for our businesses because right now government's just trying to catch up. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting because like we have younger people on the team.
Mm,
They're having these like deep personal conversations, and I'm just like, I don't know, like maybe call it, we're a little more weary of things like that. I'm like, where's that going to be used? Is that going to come out
yeah,
sometime? Things
totally.
like that. But I think it's a very interesting time, right? And
Mm,
I think like with anything, there's good with the bad, and we just have to measure it out, right? And what are you comfortable with?
yeah, I love it. Well, I'd love to shift gears a little bit. I would love to ask you, Monica, as this fierce female woman, leader in business, rocking it, crushing the world, who is a woman or not in business, but who is a woman in history that's really inspired you? And it doesn't have to be someone, it can be a personal person. They don't have to be deceased. Is there someone that you've really looked up to you in your life that you admire that you just really aspired to be like?
There that's such an interesting question. There's a lot of people that I admire. But more recently, I've been looking into, people like with celebrity status, like Serena Williams, right? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that have used the platform that they have for so many things, right? Like, I think we're in an age where again, she started her career. She's an amazing athlete, all these things, but she's also an amazing business owner, and she's
Mm,
investing in different companies, and even the way she's vulnerable. Most recently, I saw something she did. I want to say it was on Good Morning America about like
mhm,
her health journey and what she's looking for, and being a mom, right? Like, I think
mhm,
as a woman, we should have more conversations like that. I think. Back
mhm.
in the I don't want to date myself, but back in the early 90s, it was very much you didn't want to talk about your personal life in business, or we were very competitive to gain space with men, where now it's like, no, this is a completely different journey for us, and what it looks like to have children and have a family, and as that evolves, right? I think that we should have real conversations about what it is like being a parent. My husband and I have had over 9 different businesses in the span of 30 years, right?
Wow, congratulations.
Thank
That's
you.
amazing.
Thank you. We were just having my son and his wife were here yesterday, and we were just having a conversation about businesses they didn't even know we had, right?
Wow,
And
yeah.
I think doing that as parents, like my kids grew up pre-Zoom, being in an office with us, taking business
Mhm.
meetings and things like that, right? Like in a time where like when I'll put it in a different way. When I started Agile, my youngest son was 14, and I remember telling my husband, "I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom and work part-time." Now that my son is 14, and people thought I was crazy, but at that time I was like, man, being able to connect with my teenage child and work from home was like awesome. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we need to have more conversations about I was still able to do all the things I wanted to do and reach the potential that I wanted, still being a mom. Like, one of the things right now I'm very proud to say is I am a grandmother to 2 young boys, and I take off days of the week to be with
Mhm.
them. You know what I mean? And I'm able to do that. Sure, I've shifted a little bit, like I work weekends, but I'm able to help, in this. Like these are things that we didn't have back then. And I think having conversations like that is going to be a game changer for the next generation coming up.
Oh, I love that. That's so beautiful. So I think one of the things that really stands out to me is this beautiful, flexible kind of working mindset that we have now as women. Like, let's be honest, the 9 to 5 traditional way of working was created by men during the Industrial Revolution 150, 60 years ago. And what I love about what you're doing and what you're creating and the impact that you're having is you're saying it doesn't have to be that way. We can design our lives and our work life to work around our families and what's important in our priorities, and we can still do amazing work and do and
Absolutely.
be incredible, leaders in business and have great success and show people that there's a way that you can do this and you don't have to follow this traditional structure. And look at this. I mean, you've created this very successful business and you get to spend several days a week with your grandchildren. Like, that's beautiful, and it's what you want. You've chosen that. It's not something that you've had to kind of, you've designed that for yourself. And I think the more women can see that, like, you can design your life. You're not trapped wherever you're at, and you do have some control over what you want to do with your life and your future, if you believe it so, and if you take the steps and the actions to get yourself there. And it may take time and sacrifice to get there. You may not be able to do it tomorrow, but if you have a clear vision of, like, this is how I want to design my days and my life, then put that on your vision board and then start making steps on how you can get there. It's possible. You just have to, you know,
Absolutely. But
make
it
it
goes
work.
back to the passion and purpose, right? Like what did
Yeah.
you like do I
Yeah.
have to help a business owner between 9 and 5 Monday to Friday? No, I don't,
Yeah.
right? You'd be surprised that I even for me, you want to talk about limiting beliefs. I was like, no one's gonna meet with me on a Saturday. Saturday is my most booked day. Because the business
Yeah.
owner doesn't have to be in the office with anybody else, right? They get
Yes.
time to actually breathe. Nobody's disturbing them. We get heads down
Right.
focus, right? So it's been, and it's one of those things about like I made a choice, right, to be vulnerable
Mhm.
about it and say, hey, this is what I'm doing. Like people they're like, I know you're with, the kids today, and I'm like, yeah, and that's okay. Right? Like I don't
Yes.
need to like shush the babies or you understand
Mhm.
what I mean? Like it's about
Yeah.
designing it. It's about crafting the life that you want. And
Yeah, and living it, like, unapologetically. The more you talk about it with your clients and say, "You know what? I'm not available on these days because I spend this time with my grandsons," and normalizing that so that it's not like this thing that you have to hide or keep hidden or
right.
separate from your work
Yeah,
life, but, like, how can it be integrated so that other people can see, like, "Oh, this is possible, there's no stigma around it, and we can still create something beautiful together and do great work," you know?
absolutely. I think
Yeah.
and it lets people realize that it's okay for them too. And there
Yes,
might be people that
exactly.
don't agree. And that's okay. You choose not to work with me, right? Like this is the beautiful thing about having choice,
Yeah.
like you don't, it won't be a right fit for everybody, and that's okay too, right? Like, I think
Yeah.
we try to build, sometimes we get caught up in growing and scaling and building, and then we build ourselves into this box that has like so much rigidity. And sometimes you just have to like stop and be like, does it really have to be like that? Does this serve
Yes.
me? Right? Like, am I enjoying this? Like, there was a time, and these are the conversations that I feel like you don't get to have unless you're having a conversation like this, where it's
Hmm.
like, sometimes, there were times in my business that I was focused on building something that did not serve me.
Yep. Same.
It was something I
Same.
could do, it was something I was good at, but at the end of the day, did I feel like I was changing, like, was I helping people? I was providing a service, but I
Hmm.
didn't know that I was of service,
Yes.
right? Like, so at the end
Totally.
of the day, it's, did I have impact, right? It's not about what I can do for someone else, but do I feel good about what I did, right? Did I feel like I had a win? Because when my clients win, I win too, right? Like, we got there together, and was I having that, right? And taking a step back to like think about, does that really bring me joy? Does
Yes.
that bring me satisfaction? When I look back, and you mentioned legacy before, and sometimes for a long time when I was raising my kids, my legacy was about raising two decent human beings, right? Like two good human beings, right? And now that they're older and they're out on their own, now it's like, okay, but what else do we have? What impact, right? And I think it's a beautiful thing that you ask yourself,
Yeah. And
what.
it regularly, and it can change. Life's your seasons of life can change, and what's important at one season is going to be different than another, and
Absolutely.
that's okay.
But like, who gives us that? Who tells us that it's okay, right? Like, because if we're not asking the
Mm.
question, and we're not having the conversation with other people, because I hear it still to this day when I talk to other, younger women, they're like, you can do that? And I'm like, yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
you can. You can live an extraordinary life and still have an amazing personal life and business life. You can have it both.
Yes, I completely agree with that. And it takes intention, and it takes discipline to be able to create it that way. Like, you have to be able to set boundaries and honor them, and say, like, I remember um I remember I was offered a job when I had a 1 year my 1 year old daughter. So I'll tell you a little bit of backstory. So when my oldest daughter is 15 now, and when I had her, I decided I was going to leave the workforce because I wanted to just stay home with her while she was a baby. And at the time I made that choice, it was like a huge risk because I was on a really good career trajectory, and to step away from it was like, it felt at the time almost like career suicide. Like, how do I get back in the game if I leave? And I remember when I left for that first 2 years after she was born, I literally was like, I don't know how I'm ever going to get back into the workforce when the time comes. And like, if I would have known then what I know now, Monica, like, if I would have known that I would have found my way back and found this beautiful, thriving, career that, I would have been like, oh my gosh. And so I think a lot of times, sometimes as women, we can't, it's hard for us to see the bigger picture and realize that, like, you can make these changes as a woman in your life if you decide that you need to take a pause or take a break, and that's what's right for you at that time. It doesn't mean it's the end, right? Like, you can still find a way back into what you love to do and find your way. And I remember when I was my youngest was one, I got offered a job for a company, and they wanted me to come back full time. I had worked for them before, and they came back and they said, "Will you come back and work for us? And here's the job." And I was like, I love this job, but I really don't want to work full time. Can we make this work? Can I work 30 hours a week? Can we try it? Would you be willing for me to try this? And I
But how
basically
much,
told them
like, I want to use the word moxie, but how much moxie did you have to be able to ask at that point, right?
a lot of moxie. I look back on it and
And
I'm like, oh, but that's what we need. Like, so they could have just said, nope, this is the job. This is what it is. And I could have taken it at full time. But thank goodness I asked, because they did come back and they're like, we're willing to make it work or give it a try. And so, like, because I asked,
yeah,
sometimes we just have to make the ask and not make the assumption that they're going to say no. Like, the worst they could have done when I asked is say no, you
Right.
know.
Right.
But I asked, and so because I asked, it was beautiful, Monica. I was able to, I only worked 3 days a week for several years, so I had that time with my daughter, who was a toddler, and it worked. And so for me, that was like an experience of like, I think the recent prime minister, not recent, the prime minister of Finland just announced that they changed the work schedule in Finland. It's now 4 days a week, 6 hours a day is what they is. So I think that's amazing because I think
But
it's
you
very
mentioned discipline before, right? And I think that that's what it is. I think, um, I had many corporate jobs where I was bored for hours out of a day, right? Where I
yeah,
had gotten the bulk of the
yep,
work done. And the discipline in that is knowing, right? Like knowing how you work, what's your best time to work,
yes,
what's going to make it work, what's the best approach, right? Like sometimes we're able to, knock out, let's say, something in 4 hours that would typically take 12 if you had the space to be able to plan out what you're going to do, right? And so
yes,
it's just, it's an interesting thing. And, as a family, as a personal model and a business model, I think what I'm committed to is having the uncomfortable conversations. Like, let's
yeah,
just talk about it. You know what I mean? Like, like people think that right now, because we're still in a growth phase, right? Like,
mhm,
I'm still young enough that I want, I'm not looking to retire anytime soon. I'm like, I can always jump back in to the
yeah,
business, right? The babies are only going to be babies and toddlers for a short period of time. Once they go back to school, then I get to change whatever's working, right? Like that's the beauty of it. Like, what
mhm,
can you do? How do you make it work in a way that works for everyone? And I just think having the uncomfortable conversations, talking about it, bringing it up, um, and then staying in one of our biggest core values, also personally and business wise, is integrity, which is like for me, integrity is doing what you said you were going to do no matter what.
yes,
So
totally,
if we make a commitment to help a client get something done, whatever that commitment is, we're going to get it done no matter what, right? And standing behind that. And I guess what I'm passionate to tell people is that you can live the life that you want. You can have the business that you want that gives you that feeling of purpose and fulfilling your purpose, right? And sometimes it looks a little different than what you thought. I think we have this idea that it all has to be done by us, and it doesn't.
mhm,
Mixing and matching the people that you work with and how you build that out is what gives you the extreme power, right? Like we work with an amazing marketing company right now, that has an all woman team and everyone has flexibility. And I'm like, yes, like that's beautiful, right? But everybody, what they all hold true is that they are accountable to certain things, and
mhm,
they make sure that they get it done, no matter if that means I'm taking off time to go watch a kid's soccer game, whatever that means, right? Like I think that that's but again, if we don't have conversations, just like if we don't have conversations in our business about what could be, right?
yeah,
It's just about being curious and looking at it like, hey, what does this look like a year from now? What does this look like 3 years from now? Where do you want to be?
yeah,
What do your days look like?
yeah.
Like I know that I'm hoping in the next 5 years it'll look like us spending a month in Spain,
Oh,
and
that sounds
working.
amazing.
Yeah, like we'll be working, but
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But it won't be here,
yeah,
and that's fine, like, but it's, like I think I say it and I'm saying it on, like I'm saying it out loud and to other people, right? Because I want to be held accountable to what I said,
yes. It's
you
so
know?
important to say those things out loud. So
Absolutely.
important. Yeah. Oh, this has been so much fun, Monica. I've loved this conversation. So cool.
Me too. Thank you so much for
Oh,
having me.
yeah. My final question for you is what does the word moxie mean to you when you think of moxie?
Grit, gumption,
Mm,
determination, right?
mm,
I think a moxie is being committed to the things that you say you want in your life, right? And not listening to that teeny little voice that says that it can't be. It's
that's
it's
beautiful.
questioning that.
Questioning the voice that says it can't be. Oh,
Absolutely.
so beautiful. Nobody's ever given me that definition before, and I love it. It's so cool. Thank you. Oh my gosh, Monica, it's been a joy. Thank you for being on the show today. Where can our listeners, you want to connect with Monica? She's amazing. She's doing great work, helping businesses grow and strategically. make their visions a reality. So I'd love for you to share with our listeners, how can they get a hold of you? And
Oh, absolutely. The easiest place is on the website, which is agileplanners.com. My invitation is just book a let's chat. Let's have a
mm,
conversation. I always offer that, and I'm always surprised by the people that take us up on it. And they're
mm,
like, I had this question and I didn't know who to ask, right? And
mm,
I'm happy to help figure that out with you. So
mm.
definitely book a call.
Very cool. Keep defying gravity, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And until next time, say hello, Moxie.